Meat from Wagyu is famous worldwide for being exceptionally flavorful, marbled, and with a taste that can leave you speechless. And then, of course, there's the high price associated with it, with just 1 pound costing $200. Wagyu beef is truly a luxury item for a reason, as many chefs around the world are convinced that Wagyu cattle produce the best meat money can buy. But what makes Wagyu meat so special? Join us in this video as we analyze why Wagyu beef is so expensive. It might help to first understand just what Wagyu cows actually are in the first place. Wa stands for Japan, and Ju means cow or cattle.
For nearly 2,000 years, cattle in Japan were exclusively used as working animals. In fact, there is documented evidence showing the origins of Wagyu cattle, which first arrived in Japan from northern China around the year 200 AD.
Once in Japan, they were used on farms and in forestry to transport goods, for breeding, and even to pull carts carrying nobles and aristocrats. At that time, these cattle were not used for meat or milk, due to the prohibition on eating four-legged animals in the country since the 6th century for cultural and religious reasons. During this period, Japanese cattle were often smaller working beasts with horns and various colorations. However, with the Meiji Restoration in 1868, Western food was introduced to Japan. Just a few years later, in 1872, Emperor Meiji broke the taboo and celebrated the new year by eating beef. Of course, this didn't sit well with everyone at the time. In February of that year, 10 monks broke into the palace to plead with the emperor. They said the consumption of meat was ruining the souls of the Japanese people. 4 of the monks were killed in the attempt, and the news was scuttled in the local press to maintain authority. But despite their efforts, a new wave of cuisine had arrived in Japan. Between 1868 and 1919, Japanese cattle farmers imported thousands of meat-bearing cows to mix with their own tougher breeds. After decades of crossbreeding Japanese cattle with foreign cattle, 4 main breeds of cattle were determined to be superior and became the predominant breeds in the 20th century. These 4 breeds, Kuroge, black, Akaga, red, Nihon Tankaku, shorthorn, and Mukaku, hornless, are what we consider Wagyu today. The 6,000-mile journey of Wagyu to the United States began in 1975, when Morris Whitney, while researching for the University of Colorado, imported 2 black Wagyu bulls and 2 red Wagyu bulls. At that time, there were no Wagyu heifers, female Wagyu cattle, in the United States. So the Japanese bulls were paired with Angus, Holstein, Hereford, and Brangus cows from Texas. From there, the American Wagyu breeding began its gradual evolution. In 1997, Japanese officials declared Wagyu cattle a national treasure, and an export ban on live cattle was enacted to protect this status. This has helped maintain authentic Japanese Wagyu exclusive to Japan. However, since the Wagyu bloodline had already been introduced into the United States, interest in American Wagyu beef crossed with American cattle breeds increased. The 4 Wagyu breeds differ in physical color and marbling color, texture, and meaning. The Kuroge, which is the most common breed in Japan and comprises approximately 90% of Wagyu cattle breeds, is popular for its exquisite flavor due to its intensive marbling. The Akage, also known as red Wagyu, is a breed found only in Kochi Prefecture and Kumamoto Prefecture. What sets it apart from other breeds is that it's a healthier cattle breed. Therefore, its meat is lean but firm with a fine texture. Nihon Tankaku can only be found in northern Japan. What sets it apart from other Wagyu breeds is that its meat takes time because it's lean. Last but not least is the Mukaku. Among all Wagyu breeds, this has the smallest population. The meat it produces has a high lean content and a distinctive flavor. But how is Wagyu meat raised to produce such high-quality meat? Stay tuned as we delve into that. Raising cattle to produce Wagyu beef is done meticulously. Japanese farmers have perfected their techniques to ensure that cattle develop marbled fat deposits evenly and do not develop tense, tough meat. For the cattle, this means a lot of attention, which could be a dream come true. Grazing is relatively rare in Japan. Even with tethers, grazing areas are only available on mountain slopes and other remote areas where rice and other crops cannot be cultivated. Additionally, since each Wagyu beast is extremely valuable and herds are so small, owners don't want to risk the physical hazards associated with grazing. As a result, most Japanese cattle live their entire lives in stables and adjacent corrals. Calves are raised with their mothers on breeding farms, and both are always confined in small corrals. Cows and calves are hand-fed various grains and commercial feeds, as well as a wide range of forages including freshly cut green grass, silage, hay, rice straw, and in some cases, industrial byproducts and agricultural processing plant waste like canneries. Almost all Wagyu calves are fed special concentrated rations from 2 to 3 months old. In August, September, and October, their diet undergoes a change. Cattle are given beer and sake during this period because they would suffer from the heat and lose appetite. The temperature in the cow stable is about 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, and outside it's 30 degrees Celsius. They are given a bottle of beer a day until their appetite returns. They receive no beer at all if they have a healthy appetite. Calves are weaned between 8 and 10 months of age and sold as feeder calves to feedlot farmers or as replacement heifers to breeding farmers. Most of these calves are auctioned off one by one per head, which is more expensive than a typical Angus breed at specialized auction centers in major breeding areas. When they are in the hands of farmers, they need to be properly cared for and fed to produce good meat. These cows are taken to feeding farms where they can graze in a quiet environment. Consider it a cow spa, and they stay there for quite some time until they are fully developed. Cows have plenty of space to move around within the corrals and more space outside to graze. Cows are cared for on feeding farms until they are 2 or 3 years old or gain 1,500 pounds. Most farmers provide cows with 3 meals a day with high-energy ingredients. Once a month, they are weighed and expected to gain 2.5 pounds daily. Wagyu cattle are raised in stress-free environments. Farmers ensure they receive the best care to prevent tense muscles. They do this by making sure they don't undergo rigorous activities and stress. Farmers may need a stiff brush to help increase blood circulation and help cattle release muscle tension. Wagyu cattle need to be in a stress-free environment. Otherwise, stress can increase adrenaline, which can lead to muscle tension. As a result, you get tough meat. Steers usually enter the fattening phase around 10 months of age and are slaughtered between 27 and 28 months old. For females, there are 2 approaches to fattening: the old cow system and the ideal method for virgin heifers. In the old cow system, specialized feeders purchase cows that have finished breeding or working in the field. These animals are typically between 6 and 8 years old, though they can be much older. The feeder often keeps only 1 cow and dedicates considerable time and care to fatten it for 7 to 8 months to marble the meat before slaughter. Each massage lasts around 20 minutes and is only performed from May to October with oil and a special straw brush. One of the differences between Wagyu beef and other premium beef, such as Brahman and Black Angus, is that most beef in grocery stores comes from large-scale industrial farms with a lot of land and cows. Wagyu beef, however, comes from Japan and is much smaller than that from the United States. Fattening yards in Japan may contain only between 10 and 100 head of cattle. This means that cattle raised for Wagyu beef are in much shorter supply, contributing to why Wagyu beef is so expensive. Wagyu beef comes from Japan, So if you want to get it in the United States, it must be imported. There is an import quota in the United States, and once that quota is reached, a high import tax is added to all future imports. This means that the beef must have a higher price. As a result, consumers end up paying that import tax.